Where would that go? Okay.
It's
I just,
recording.
yeah, it is. All right. Hi, Jocelyn. Welcome, and also welcome to all of those people all of you who are joining us over FaceTime or YouTube. I'm so glad that you're able to be with us.
Facebook.
Yes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And here we are.
I mean,
Thank you. So the verse we were on actually was verse one, or I should say verse two, right? Where we were talking about, and as I continued to look at this material, I realized um, the writing is sort of abbreviated, and we need to understand what's going on. At any rate, Ele Toldot Yaakov. There's a lot in this particular verse. These are the generations of Jacob, and instead of listing all the children, all it says is Yosef, which is of course to tell you how much Yosef meant to Jacob. Ben Shavas Shana, he was 17 years old. And part of what we're going to find out is how long um, Jacob was separated from Joseph, or Joseph was separated from Jacob, because we're told that Joseph was 30 years old when he appeared before Pharaoh, and then there would have been the 7 good years, and then we started the seven. So 37 years he was separated from his father. 20 years. 20 years. Jacob was wondering if Joseph was even alive. Interesting, matching the 20 years with Laban too. At any rate, Haya ro'eh et achav, he was uh, herding with his brothers, Hatzon, the flock, and specifically Vahu Na'ar et Bnei Bilha. And this verb, using Na'ar as a verb, is so interesting. We're going to talk about that at any rate, because Na'ar means sort of an immature young man. But at any rate, it says he was, I don't know, acting immaturely perhaps. It's not so easy to translate. With the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, Neshei Aviv, his father's wives. So the point was, he wasn't getting along with the sons of Leah right there, right? Where sort of it's implied there. Vayaveh Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihem, and Joseph brought bad reports to their fathers, and the bad reports weren't about the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. They were bad reports about the sons of Leah. It's not stated explicitly, but that is our understanding of it. All right, so we are building up a situation right now, clearly, of conflict and hatred. It's happening in a verse already. We're seeing what's going to create a huge conflict. So, and of course, the next verse is going to tell us on the other side why this conflict this hatred between the brothers is going to exist. So we had gotten through part of the Rashi on this verse. And in fact, towards the end of davening yesterday morning, I received a phone call from my friend's wife to tell me that Clive had passed. And I thought it was so interesting because, in preparing my remarks, which is going to happen today, the funeral is at 10 o'clock our local time. And I'm going to devote this lesson in his memory. uh,
who?
Clive Sinoff. He was a
Oh,
boyhood
oh,
friend of mine
right.
in South Africa for quite a number of years, and I was in touch with him during this last period of his life. And he was, let's say, he was a student of adversity, and he was a. So I'm not kidding. One thing to another. At any rate, this verse here, which was so touching, that we read this verse yesterday, right? Because we're commenting on Jacob and the idea of Vayeshev, implying that Jacob thought at this particular point he would be able to settle down after his life, this life that was filled with difficulty and conflict and pain. And the last thing we read about was the death of his beloved Rachel. I mean, just unbelievable. So this verse says, all right, Dayan la tzadikim. is it's a question, it's a rhetorical question that, as it were, God asks, is it not enough for the righteous, ma shemitukan lahem lo'olam haba, what has been prepared for them in the next world? Ela mevakshim leishev, there's the leishev, right? B'shalva b'olam hazeh.
Sorry,
But
where are you?
I'm on verse 2 in the Rashi.
Oh, you're still in on the.
Yeah, yep, verse 2 in the
These are the
Rashi.
generations of Jacob, their settlements, the wanderings, and the first cause when Jacob was 17. They wandered,
Not
descended.
Jacob,
I
Joseph.
don't.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
not
see.
you're not reading the Torah itself. It doesn't sound like
You
you're
said
reading.
you were in the Rashi.
I am.
So where?
I'm into the Rashi quite a bit. It's a long Rashi. Look at this, all this Rashi here, and it talks about right here. It says Od Nidrash Bo, so it's after. Yeah,
Okay, you kind of skipped to that, so I
talks
need to
about,
find
yes.
it.
Okay, you'll have to find it's in the Rashi on verse 2, and it's about how the various parallels between, just has been talking about the various parallels between Jacob's life and Joseph's life. That
So
there
there are like 5 Rashis on verse 2. Are you in the first one?
no, oh no, not probably, maybe the third, maybe the fourth.
Okay, the third one is with the sons of Bilhah. Then
No,
the
that's
fourth
verse
is
3.
people.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let's look at that. No, I think then it's above that.
The second one was, and he was a lad.
Keep going above that.
So that's the first one. The generations of Jacob.
Yes, go on. And you're reading Rashi.
Yeah, but it's really long, so I'm just trying to figure out where you are.
So I don't have your text. I don't have your text, so I
It should be
can't.
similar to yours though. So
Well,
you're talking about the Midrash Agadah, maybe?
right after that.
Okay, right after that, it's just talking about Jacob served Laban,
That's correct. That's
Joseph.
correct. That's right. Keep going. Those are the
Joseph
events.
was hated. Esau sought to kill him.
That's right. That's all the parallels at the end of that.
And
And
then
it's in
Genesis
many.
Rabbah. Okay,
That's good.
further expounded.
Now here. This is, you're at the place now.
Okay, the end of the first Rashi. Okay.
Mhm. Okay. So it's here. It says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, thought the Holy One, blessed be He, Lo Dayan, is it not sufficient for the righteous what is prepared for them in the next life? Ella shemavakshim leishev b'shalva b'olam hazeh, but they also seek to dwell in serenity, comfort, peace in this world. And yesterday we talked quite a bit about how life wasn't the way Jacob might have wanted scripted. That in a sense, we all kind of, perhaps, maybe not all, but I think many of us sort of like to see how our lives would work out. We have a dream ourselves as to how life might work out for us, and how here is an example with Jacob, how life totally didn't work out the way he might have scripted it. So the idea here, so in reference to my friend Clive, who was, as I said, just schooled in adversity, to me, I hope that this verse represents that he is in a good place, that he's no longer suffering, that he was a good person, really. He was a fantastic oncologist. He told me about his own philosophy of medicine and how he would try anything to cure his patients, which got him into trouble with Kaiser, because they didn't want to spend the money on it, and he investigated cutting edge. He'd investigate cutting edge methods to cure people, and they didn't want to spend the money on it. So, at any rate, so Zichrono Livracha. Bahu Na'ar, this is referring to Joseph, and there's this verb Na'ar, so strange here, and here's the explanation. Shaya Ose Maase And I know the Sifre, the hmm, uh, sorry, the Svarya interprets this differently. But this doesn't have vowels. So this could be read as na'arot. Haya ose ma'ase na'arot. That he practiced, he behaved like a young girl. Mitakin besaro, he'd play around with his hair, he'd comb his hair 100 times. Mishamesh, mimashmesh be'enav, he'd like put mascara on his eyes, kadei sheyeh nir'eh yafeh, so that he would look beautiful. So the Torah's not painting him as a perfect person, but that he was somewhat vain, okay, or concerned about his physical appearance. Et b'nei Bilha, with the sons of Bilha. Klomar, that is to say, v'ragil etzel b'nei Bilha. So what this is saying is that he spent his time with the children, with the sons of Bilha, and we know with the sons of Zilpah. In other words, with the sons of the handmaids. Why? Lefi shahayu achiv levazinoto, because otan, excuse me, because his brothers mocked them, vahu makarvan, but he drew them close. So just understanding the inner little pieces of why the Torah is saying what it's saying. So the brothers hated him too, and the brothers mocked the handmaids. Ediba Tamra. So this is he bringing back evil reports to his father about the sons of Leah. Kol Ra'a Shayaroe, anything bad which he saw, the Achav b'nei Leah, that he saw in his brothers who were the sons of Leah, Haya Magil Aviv. Look at how this is totally building up such a situation of deep hatred, because you want to know why the brothers were ready to kill him. I mean, emotionally, this would just keep pouring gasoline on stuff, right? Uh, they would he would tell his father anything that he saw,
Tattletale, yep.
that he saw the brothers, his brothers, the sons of Leah, doing, he'd bring back to his father. And here we go. So interesting. This is an amazing Rashi that we're about to see. Shayu ochlim ever min hachai. He accused them of eating ever min hachai, meaning taking the limb of a live animal and eating it. This is one of the mitzvot that the sons of Noah are, that is, in other words, any human being is forbidden to practice. Because back then, when there wasn't refrigeration, they would amputate an animal and eat the limb. In other words, they would take an unessential part of an animal, and in order to have fresh meat, they would do that to the animal. That's Aver Minachai. So that's one thing he'd accuse them of. Umezalzalim ben vivnei hashbachot likrotam, and that they would mock the children of the handmaids, likrotam avadim, that they would call them, the sons of Leah would call the children of the handmaids slaves, servants. The chashudim, and the third thing, that they were suspected al ha'arayot, concerning immorality. Ubishloshan luka, and in all three of them, he himself was smitten. Rashi gives examples. The examples. Al Ever Minachai, regarding his accusing them of eating Ever Minachai. Quotation, Vayishchatu Seir Izim, they slaughtered a goat, the Mechirato, when they sold him, when he was sold. The Lo Achluhu Chai, they didn't eat that goat or part of a goat while the goat was living. So that's the sort of the suggestion there. The Al Diba, and regarding the bad mouth, shesiper alehem, which he spoke regarding them, shekorin la'acherim avedim, that they called their brothers slaves, and the quotation is le'eved nimkar Yosef. Joseph was sold as a slave. Al ha'arayot, and regarding immorality, shesiper alehem, which he talked about regarding them, Tisa eshet avonav, the wife of his master, Potiphar's wife, lifted up her eyes to him. She tried to seduce him.
I don't understand the first one, because how was it punishing Joseph that they did not eat a live part of the goat?
The issue is it was connected to his being sold as a slave.
But that's the second one.
No. That is the second one is that he was sold as a slave.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that they decided to remember the issue of the goat was that they took Joseph's cloak and dipped it in the goat's blood and then showed it to their father and said he was killed by a wild animal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the fact that they say shachat, I believe, that the reason here is because it mentions specifically that they shechita the goat. I believe that's the connection there. I also, Lauren, for whatever it's worth to you, I also was struggling a little bit to understand how well it was connected compared to the other two. But I think that's what it's. Yes, sure,
Oh,
Ben.
sorry. Rashi seems to be saying that the slanderous things that Yosef said to Yaakov were not true.
Correct.
Now, the Torah doesn't say that. Actually, it just says dibatam ra'ah, which could mean be true or not true, right?
So here's this, that is the point, and we're going to look at this. Dibatam is the very next word we're going to look at, and so yeah, I think they were not true. But on the other hand, we said that they did call, the issue is that they did tease, the brothers of Leah, the children of Leah did tease, we know, right? Or mocked the children of Bilhah and Zilpah. The question might be, did they actually call them slaves? Did they actually do that? So this issue of whether there was truth to it or not is sort of a very interesting question that you're raising, because I think that even if they were true, let's suppose there was some element of truth to this, would that still excuse Joseph reporting on them and being a talebearer? And for that
Well,
reason,
I always imagined him as being a kind of a tattletale,
Mhm.
and that would go along with his immaturity, a 17-year-old kid who's not very mature.
Right.
But if he's actually making up stuff and lying about his brothers to their father,
That's slander.
That's a lot more serious and it painted Joseph in a much darker light.
Right. But the point, so my sense is that it wasn't, I understand. The point was, do you think were the brothers actually doing stuff that was bad? And the answer is yes. Whether they were doing it to the degree that is being described here, I'm not sure. Maybe they were guilty of these things. I don't think that would have excused Joseph either, and I think you're saying that. The question is, would he have been punished in the way that he was? But let's take one step back. What I've noticed about this story is how often do you see direct speech from God in this story? Tell me.
Not so far.
And you ain't going to see it again. The first time you're going to see any direct speech from God is when God assures Jacob to go down to Joseph in Egypt, to leave Canaan and go down to Egypt. That is the first time you see direct speech. What is so incredible about the story, which honestly gives me goosebumps, is that there's no direct speech. This God is hidden in the story. And the way God is hidden in the fact that this story is showing us the scaffolding behind the events. And what Rashi is doing for us is helping us understand the scaffolding.
Another thing about these punishments is these were punishments given to Joseph for slandering or tattletaling or whatever about his brothers. Two of the punishments were caused by the brothers, probably a direct relation to their resentment of him,
Right.
for the way he has, the racial relationship has developed with them. But the third one is not.
Yes.
So
That's
it's
correct.
interesting that that one is a removed punishment. And it's, if it's kind of a karma, that you would assume then it has something to do with God's hand
That's
as
right.
opposed to the brothers' hands, which are the first two.
Good, wonderful point. Wonderful point. That behind the scenes, God is causing all this to happen because you realize ultimately this is going to lead to the slavery. It is the fulfillment of the prophecy that God gave to Abraham between the pieces. And how foundational the experience of the slavery and subsequent freeing of the Jewish people from Egypt and the slavery in Egypt is for us. That piece is like the very foundation of everything, because it also, if you think about it, it's the beginning of the Ten Commandments. It is saying that that the degree to which we owe God our loyalty and the need to do God's commandments.
So what you're saying though is and it's really pointed out really well in the musical, but that God's hand is in all three of these punishments.
Yes.
But then it's like you're saying, well, God caused the slavery and then has to be celebrated for ending it.
Yes, because we, again, understanding slavery is a lot. Again, what's life about? What's the purpose of life? Is it to make lots of money? Is it
No,
to be powerful? Is it to
it's to
be
be a
famous?
slave to God.
Yes, it is. Understanding, they say there's a beautiful statement in the tradition that says, Eved Melech Melech, that the servant or the slave, because the word Eved means slave, of a king is a king. Because it allows us to link our lives to the divine. And it gives us a way to put meaning into our lives and purpose into our lives that is divinely connected.
So
And
did God enslave the Jewish people because of Joseph's sins?
no, it's all it's all the way in which, look, what's so cool, right, and subtle about this is that did God cause Joseph to bring bad reports to his father? No, that was Joseph's decision. Was it God who caused Joseph to do any of the things that happen in this story? And the answer is not directly. If it hadn't have happened this way, it might have happened a different way. Because we do believe in free will. We do believe in free will. And what happens is we get set up, and then it's our choice how we want to react. But nevertheless, despite the fact that we operate in a field of free choice, the situations are quite possibly set up through the divine agency. And if it doesn't going to happen in one way, it may well happen in a different way. But
well, that's why this generation is so interesting, and the story is so interesting, because now we've got all these adults, B'nai Israel, these adult sons. The family has expanded exponentially from, Abraham.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Abraham would focus on his relationship with God, and then Isaac focused on his relationship with Abraham and God. And now we've got all these people running around doing all kinds of things, being all kinds of different ways, good, bad, less good, less bad. And it's all of a sudden like this human little world of interactions behind which we're supposed to understand there's a direction, there's a kind of a divine direction, but the people are behaving kind of randomly and more, some less, and it's just this becomes this social drama, family drama.
It is. I wouldn't say randomly. What I think is so incredible.
Not randomly, emotionally, I should have said, very emotional.
Correct. What is so great about this is how human all these individuals are. They're all human. And that to me is what is great about literature. What is great about literature is the degree to which it understands the true nature of human beings and their emotions and their wisdom and their rationale, their ability to reason. And this story is sui generis. It is different from all the stories in Genesis that we've read up to this point. Partially because you don't see God speaking to anybody. It all is done in this, it's allowing us to try to interpret what happens in our lives, even though we don't hear God speaking to us, as understanding the degree to which it is all divinely planned.
Well, I mean, Joseph is important, but he's not one of the patriarchs.
No, but he is very important.
He's very important,
yeah.
But he's different in his relationship with God, his direct relationship with God as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right. He's considered a tzaddik, though. Very often he's referred to as Yosef HaTzaddik. And part of what makes Joseph truly great and the transformational place for Joseph is when he is accused of course, of trying to seduce or trying to rape Potiphar's wife. He is falsely accused. He is put into prison, and he understands when he's finally brought before Pharaoh, that he says he understands and states how everything is caused by God. And he says it at the end with his brothers. And it's his understanding of this, perhaps, that allows the issue of Cain and Abel, that starts with Cain and Abel at the beginning of Genesis, to get resolved by the time you get to the end of the book of Genesis, and how that gets resolved. He totally understands. Joseph understands. He's an incredibly wise person. He's brilliant. Let's see if I've only got 3 minutes now, and I haven't finished Rashi on verse 2. Okay, so let's go on a little bit. So certainly understanding this, if we get the lesson or the message that the Joseph story is trying to tell us, we are going to have a lot more confidence in what happens to us. But certainly within the adversity. And our expectations are going to be changed. Dibatam. Kol lashon diba. Okay, he says it's any kind of gossip. And it's the French, right? Parler, we know from modern French, right? And then there's the German or the Yiddish, Reideraya, meaning chattering, talking, and bereiden, again, ret is speaking, right? So it means, it means gossip. That's essentially what it means. Kol ma shehaya, everything that he yachol ledaber bahem ra, anything he could say bad about them, hayam mesaper. So Shira Beth, I believe this is suggesting that it was gossip and not slander. In other words, if he saw something that he could interpret in a negative kind of way, he would. And that's what he shared with his dad. And we know this is something people do. They interpret something somebody does, and they put a bad light on it. And then another word, diba, again, lashon, and he quotes Shir HaShirim, Yovev Siftei Yeshenim. He causes the lips of those who sleep to speak. By the way, it reminds me of a very poignant expression within the tradition that says that when we read and when we teach the words of people who have passed away, so for example, when we are studying words that Rashi wrote centuries ago, we are causing Rashi to speak from the grave. Rashi's still speaking. So that might be a good place to stop this. So I'm going to stop the share.
Can I quickly ask about the Na'arot, Maaseh Na'arot?
Yes.
Is that generally accepted understanding, or because I always thought it was Na'arut? But
I know that's how Safaria understands it, but it's not pointed, and it doesn't make real sense. I'm sorry, I'm not saying it doesn't make any sense at all, but I think it makes more sense in terms of what young girls might like to do and what they like to play. Now, look, maybe the culture has changed, and maybe boys do it now as well, and maybe girls don't do it anywhere more. But I don't think it would, look, I'm not going to go to the mat over that reading of it. It just didn't make sense. Young boys tend to do other kinds of things, right? They tear tails off of lizards, right? They do things that are, that's what young boys do.
And
They
some
do
girls.
things like that. Yeah, of course. There are always exceptions. I'm just saying, if you're going to generalize, and of course, there's always a danger in generalizations. And Tish, it's so nice to see your bright, smiling face. You look so happy. It's so great.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. I guess you made it safely. That's great.
I made it safely, and I'm self-isolating at my son's.
Ah, nice.
And I have room service as a consequence.
Sounds like everything is good with you. Listen, we have to stop now. I'm going to stop the recording. And
I'm not going to stay for services, but I
Okay.
just needed to check in and see people's faces.
Fabulous. It's working. It's working.
Thank you, Tish.
Yes.
And partly because I want to come tonight and I don't want people to be saying hi when it's a Shiva minion. So I'm doing the highs now, and we'll see you tonight. Okay.
All right. Listen, I'm going to stop the recording and say farewell to those of our Facebook and YouTube friends. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. I can tell you that when we get to Friday and I can no longer continue with this particular part, I am going to be very sorry, because we're going to have to jump to Miketz at that point. And I don't want to miss any little part of this story. It is so incredible.
Pretty much feel like that about all of Genesis.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well, we can make a
You're
decision.
still recording.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.